Good afternoon, everyone. Me and Isaac is gonna debate about conventional versus electrical engine today. So therefore, I'm gonna do conventional engine, and my friend Isaac is gonna do electrical engine. So enjoy the show. Alright. Talking about conventional engine, it is basically about internal combustion engine, where it's mostly you can see in cars, aircrafts, and in motorcycles even. So internal combustion engines, it's divided into like different types, which is reciprocating and more so on. So I'm gonna talk about more to reciprocating, which is divided into a number of strokes, where you have 4 strokes and 2 strokes, even 6 strokes. But when it comes to type of ignition, it consists of compression ignition, and one more is the spark ignition. So this is the types of where we can see internal combustion engines. So when talking about how does combustion engines works, so it's like it is mainly it's known as heat engines, where engines work by burning the fuel to release heat. So combustion of fuel occurs with an oxidizer in a combustion chamber. Means combustion engines works with when the fuel is given, it will oxidize with the oxygen and it releases the exhaust gases. So this is basically about combustion engines.
Alright, so for electrical motors, the way it works is electricity or a current is supplied to the magnets, and the magnet induces the current, and this current will rotate a shaft. So this shaft can be coupled with a transmission, for example, and it will create gear ratios that will be able to enable the power from the motor to be transmitted towards maybe an axle or directly to the wheels itself. Electrical motors are now being seen as the next generation or the next step in the evolution of the automobile, because now it's coming to a time where everyone's moving into green tech. For example, you have Tesla coming up with their completely electric line of vehicles, from the Tesla Roadster, which was in the early 2000s, to right now, which we have the Model X, the Model S, and even a Tesla semi-truck coming out soon. And we also see a big shift in the major manufacturers in the world, especially from Germany and Japan. You've got BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Porsche, and even Toyota, Honda, and Mitsubishi moving into maybe even FEVs, which are the plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, or even the completely electric vehicles. So we see this as as the next step in, again, the evolution of the automobile. Devon?
Alright. So going again same. He told that electrical engines, not specifically electrical engines, but it's electrical motors, but it's more towards next generation. But I will say that conventional engines, it's going to hit the markets for another 33 decades. The reason is because it's all about efficiency. Even though electrical is much efficient than conventional. Conventional, I can say it is the advantage of conventional. I can say it's small and compact, because when it's small and compact, it can produce higher efficiencies, and it can produce higher energy. Higher energy can be produced for conventional engines. So second thing I would like to say, that more power to weight ratio. Comparing between engine and conventional. Okay, let's say I'm gonna take like both engines more or less on same engine. This reason is because when I compare the power to weight ratios of conventional engine and electrical engine. For an example, let's say a Tesla batteries. It weighs about 450 kilograms, but at the same thing, it gives out the same efficient as what conventional can give within 1.5 gallon of fuels. So I would say that comparing power to weight ratio, I would say conventional and electrical engine is almost the same. So I'm trying to say that within 3 decades of starting from today or maybe even future, convention is going to hit the market soon. So I would say that next generation of electrical engines maybe after that or anywhere in around the corner soon. The third thing is where it is very portable, easier to put it in and put it out or whatever is it. And the fourth thing is more efficient, as I said. It's efficient where its energy given both the engines are equally distributed. Fifth thing is cheap. Comparing to electrical engines, convention engines, I definitely bet y'all it is cheap. And the sixth one is less emission. And even though convention releases a lot of emissions, bad emission where it creates air pollution and all, but it can be controlled. So I'll feel like it's never gonna be a big problem in this world now.
Alright. So just to counter Devin's topics. So when he talks about a smaller engine, it is understood that you can get smaller sized conventional engines. So for example, the Kanchil's got an 800cc, and you do get the motorcycle engines which are much smaller. But if you look at it now, you got the KFC bikes that go around with electrical bikes. The delivery guys have electrical bikes, and those are quite small and they're quite potent as well. As you could see them storming around the school hostel. We also know that even BMW with their i3, their whole i series basically has a small electrical engines in their vehicles. The BMW i3 is a very small car. It's small. It's as smart. It's maybe a little bit bigger than a smart car, and yet it has all this boot space because all the motors are mounted so low, which countering the efficiency, it makes it more space efficient. It allows more people to have more space in their vehicles. It also allows for people to have a lower center of gravity. For example, let's just take the Tesla because it's an all-electric car that's been produced for the longest time now. It's all its battery packs are very very low to the ground, and its motors are at its wheels, and then the whole body, the rest of the car is just mounted on top of that chassis. It makes it more space efficient. It makes it more adaptable. You can use that same prototype, that same concept of having the batteries and the motors on the sides, and then mount any type of body on top of it, and it will still retain that very very low center of gravity because most of the mass is down there, and it still gives you more space to do whatever you want to or whatever the designer wants to do inside the car. You could see this from a lot of the concepts that were at the Tokyo and Geneva motor shows, like this year and last year as well, where a lot of the cars have now large spaces inside the car and are very very low to the ground because there is more space to do whatever the designer would like to do with the car itself. Power to weight ratio, I might have to agree. Yes, you get larger power to weight ratios. You can get larger power to weight ratios, but the problem is this: the amount of power that you are required to make means that you burn so much more fuel. For example, you take the high performance sports cars. Those cars they've got 500-600 horsepower, right? The Tesla is a full-sized family car, and it still does the quarter mile faster than most supercars, and that's saying a lot. Even though the weight of the engines and batteries might be heavy at the moment, they are developing and they will be improving. The internal combustion engine has been around for 100 years, and the electrical motor has been around for maybe 20-30 years. Imagine what 100 years could do for the electric motors and their cost, their portability. Right now, even at this time, they still have a higher torque and a higher power output than a normal conventional engine will have. In terms of portability and how small it is, yes, you can get the big motors which have the big outputs, and you can get the small motors which have the smaller outputs. It's the same with the internal combustion engine, so you don't really have a big advantage there itself. But you do have an advantage when it comes to cost. I agree, yes, internal combustion engines are a lot cheaper than electrical motors, but that is still due to the young nature that the electrical motors are in. If you think about it this way, combustion engines are made by everybody, and electrical motors are still currently made by the elite. But once it starts branching out, if you look at China now, China's producing their own supercars using electric motors. Those motors are going to filter down into the smaller Chinese companies, and it's just going to become way cheaper and cheaper, and it will become more accessible in the end. So I still see that the electrical motor, no matter how much I dislike the electrical motors, will still be the future of the automobile,
All right.
even in the next 30 years.
Yeah. Alright, as what Isaac said, it is very true. But talking about nowadays generation where 3 decades, most frequently we're gonna take like 3 to 5 decades, right? The market is gonna focus on conventional rather than electrical engines. That's why I feel like the reason is because as me being as a MotoGP fan, let's take a date, okay? Nowadays MotoGPs are developing their bike towards the engines. Like it's like more to conventional because they are using 5-stroke engines. So it's like their power to weight ratio. If they decided to use electrical, none of the fans is going to sit and watch the game, watch the race. It's because it's something like hitting the market. You hit the market when the race is there. If the race is with the electrical, I feel like the reason is people are coming and watching the race is because it's fun, nice to hear the engines and all, just like loud sounds, more torque, more power it's giving. So it's like way more better than what we think what electrical can give. Electrical maybe is like this sound only. So it's like might be like 50 to 60 laps. It can be boring for them. So what I feel like it's like hitting the market. So convention can make that market. So adding on to my points, where when it comes to conventional, when you're talking about electrical, it's going to be more sufficient and more spacious in to be using. But I would say that liquids are easily transported. When
Sorry?
it comes to liquids,
Okay.
where most of the convention use liquids to burn, correct, right?
Yep.
So they can be easily transported. So widely available and can be refueled easily. Wherever you go or stop, it can be refueled easily. I will not never say it's like electrical cannot be refilled easily, but there's a thing where it's a time. When I refill for my car, it's just 1 minute. But when I refill for electrical engine, I need to refill electrical powers for at least for 8 hours, which is I don't want to do that. So comparing about this is the way of the location is going to be like our refilling station is going to be more a lot than what electrical can do. So this is my opinion in hitting the market targets.
Alright. I'm just going to work backwards here. So, he was talking about the refilling stations. It is true. It is true that the abundance of normal and conventional gasoline powered or oil powered fuel stations are everywhere. It's been like that over the last 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, like that, right? True. Again, I'd like to reiterate that electrical motors and electrical powered automobiles are still in its infancy stage. So people are still trying to adapt to it. And I'm assuming it's the same way with the gasoline engine when it started out. There was probably just one fuel station in the entire world, and then they had to grow from there. It's a similar situation, and we will continue to see a growth in the electrical power stations. I mean, right now, even in Malaysia, you can see electrical charging stations at malls and even office complexes in their car parks, which enables and encourages people to proceed and buy electrical vehicles or even just plug-in hybrid vehicles. Yes, the plug-in hybrids do incorporate a gasoline engine as well, but baby steps. So it's all in the pursuit of progress, right? If we want to cut down our emissions and if we want to eliminate the use of fossil fuels in our vehicles every day, electric is the best way to go at the moment. I mean, there is hydrogen fuel cells and all that stuff, but electrical is far easier and it's far more research now than it was ever before, and then hydrogen powered vehicles are before as well. So I feel, even though Mazda claims to say, you can go further, you can go more efficiently with fuel engines, gasoline powered engines, by just improving the efficiency, there is a point at which that will stop and that electrical power will take over. And I feel that they might come sooner than 30 years itself. When it comes to Motor racing is dear to my heart as well, like as it is for him. I do follow the Formula One series and maybe and sometimes even the World Rally Championships, and all of this is very visceral. It's very exciting when you hear the sounds of the cars going by and things like that. But it doesn't stop. Like the sound of the engines doesn't really stop a fan from watching. If they really want to watch it, they will continue to watch it. It's like the Formula E series. They developed the Formula E series and it was small. It's still very small compared to where Formula One is, but it's growing very fast. And the improvements they are making in that racing series is very drastic. Yes, the format of the races is a little bit different. They have two different races over the weekend, and how it's done is different. But the next generation of Formula E is coming up end of this year, and it's very exciting to see what improvements they made, especially with the new Formula E car. It's pretty radical and it looks pretty engaging, and it's a far cry from where Formula E was in the beginning, but it's a big step forward as well. So I do intend to see MotoGP moving in that direction as well with electric bikes.
Yeah, talking about that, even MotoGP is even planning to come up with some concept like they call it as Moto E.
Right.
So it's like same what Formula E, right?
Yeah, Formula
So
E.
it's a Formula E, the same concept as what they are trying to do, but it is being developed by now. So I feel like it is like new invention. So it's like not going to hit the market
True.
now. So coming to the point where he said that efficiency, yes. So talking about that, efficiency is good. Electrical cars gonna give you more efficiency than what conventional can give you, because conventional is like very small and compact. They give higher efficiency, but that's where losses of heats. When the efficiency comes in, you need to give up some heat, right? So efficiency, it will be losing there. But compared to electricals, it's going to be what he said. Its efficiency is going to be like way more better than conventionals. Except that, but talking about energy needed to produce, I mean not to produce, energy needed to transport one product to another, one place to another place, where we are going to talk like very large vehicles, where lorries, even why don't we go for lorries? We take cars, a 4-stroke car or two, something like that. It's going to like the energy they need actually is like a lot. So the amount of energy needed to carry 8,000 pounds across the country is far too much for batteries. But I can say fuels easier to burn and they can give a lot of energy what you need. So it's like some or other convention is going to win there.
Alright, so after our deliberation and our discussion, I think we can both agree that the conventional engine will still be in quite a dominant force in the automobile industry until a time where we can see significant changes, especially in transportation of goods across countries and etc. Until that time comes when electrical motors can actually do that, conventional engines will still have a prime place in the automobile industry. Yes, they might. Yes, the electrical motors might be starting small in smaller companies and starting to branch out into the bigger companies, but they will still focus on the conventional engine until they see that the time is right. And yes, I have to agree with Devon that conventional engines are more, we can call them more feeling. They have more feeling than the electrical the motors at the moment. But there would be a time when simulated forces and simulated feedback basically will be put into the vehicles as well. And we see that coming with electric power steering and electric braking itself.
Yeah.
And BMW is already inputting sounds of engines through their speakers as like in the current day as well. So it might not be a thing of the future in the future, and it might just be a normal thing later on. But as we see it right now, electrical engines do have a long way to go, but they will get there, and conventional engines will still be in their prime in the next few years as we see it. So yeah, thank you for watching our video.
Thank
and
you.
Goodbye.